Hey guys, today I'd like to do something very funny, at least for me, concerning Necromunda. That is, I want to create the Hive City in a series of pieces that I can use to play with it. It is something that in the past would have been almost impossible for me to do, but which today, thanks to the new technologies, will seem to be feasible, even if it's not an easy thing. I started with the simple part, of course, the tile floors. After thinking a bit about how they should have been, I decided to make them raised 1 centimeter from the table. You wonder why? Well, so if I want to have precipice with the rustic bridges, I just have to make the gap from the tiles floor, and with a black tablecloth it should create the illusion, as you can see from my very precise technical drawings. I created one grid structure with Blender, which for who don't know, is a free 3D software. The structure will act as a foundation and then I glue the resin printed floor onto it. To print the grid, I used an anycubic iron, while for the resin tiles I've used an anycubic photon. Both of my printers are from Anycubic. Even if I'm not sponsored, I recommend them because in terms of quality and price they are unbeatable. However, going back to the tile floor, I think I could have also used the polystyrene or other material instead of the plastic grid. It would have taken less time and it would have been fine anyway. But I really like the final result. I even made a fragmented version of the grid for the people who own a smaller PLA printer. If I were to succeed in this project, I would like to be able to share it in some way. After the grid came the turn to print all 18 resin pieces that will make up the floor. I also created this with Blender and texturized with ZBrush, another 3D software more aimed at sculpture. My printer, as you can see, has a small printing plate. It is in these cases that I would like to have a Mono X. I could print them all at once and with only 1/10 of the time. One problem I noticed with my Anycubic photon is the tendency of the pieces to come off the printing bed during the process. I solved the problem in 2 ways. The first was to sand the plate to remove all the paint, and it has greatly improved the adhesion. The newer model of printers have the plate uncolored. Probably they realized it was a mistake. The second way is more of a gimmick. Usually my first print always fails. I don't know if it happened to you too. I found a trick and I want to share with you. It always works to improve the adhesion of the plate. Heat it by immerging for 1 or 2 minutes under hot water. The heat will be transferred to the resin once immersed in it during the printing. The resin works at the best around 30 degrees. Usually the LCD screen heats it during the process. But if the plate is hot, it will transfer the heat to the resin, making it stick better. Be very careful not to let enter water into the resin. Dry it meticulously. With this trick, no printers fail me anymore. If you run many prints consecutively, you won't have to repeat the water trick, as long as the resin maintains the temperature. The great advantage of printing these pieces is that there are no supports needed. This means less printing times and no waste of resin. This part is very simple and repetitive. You watch some TV series while you throw one print after another, accumulating all the pieces. Unfortunately, the pieces came out rubber-like. It's not a big deal, but I prefer them to be stiff. So I completed the job by letting them take a sun bath for about an hour. In this way, the material should lose its toxicity. It is one more thing that can be avoided because once glued and painted, the problem of rubberiness would have been solved anyway. I use a glass plate on top to make them stay flat during the sunbath. Sometimes they tend to bend under the sunlight, becoming unusable. When the white smelly resin turns ivory, it is completely cured. The next resin I want to try is the black one. I thought that in this way I will save money in primers by not having to paint them black. Each piece is 5 by 10 centimeters with a thickness of 5 millimeters. With my printer settings, I need around 15 minutes for each piece, but I can't tell how much resin I used. The plastic grid is 30 by 30 centimeters. The assembly phase. First I clean all the parts with sandpaper to remove the imperfection and arrange them in the right order. There will be a puddle of acid in this tile floor, but I will add it in the end. I use hot glue to stick them and I regret it because it dries too quickly and doesn't give the time to make adjustments. In the point where I will pour the liquid resin for the acid puddle, I close all the crannies with a simple glue, texturizing it with a small sponge to make it blend. This glue, once hardened, is like plastic. Here we move on to paint the tile. Starting with a very fast pre-shading. I have not recorded the whole process because it's too long for one video, but more or less I'm going to show you the steps. It is just a matter of repeating these steps until you get the desired result. As base color I used the navy blue that I created by mixing the colors from the line Easy Multicolor. Now I have 2 kilos of it and I hope it will be enough for my whole life. When you have to paint scenarios, my advice is to find affordable colors, otherwise you will spend a fortune in the long run. These powder brushes are great for painting large areas. It speeds up the work a lot and creates natural shades. I added some grey to dry brush the details. My favorite part, weathering. You can use whatever technique you like or even improvise like I do. Add colors until the desired level of dirt and variety is reached. Precision is not required. A little extra touch that must be in every sci-fi setting is the signage. I created some paper stencil that I made using Photoshop. As tedious as it is, they are worth the pain. Before spraying the color with an airbrush, I've gloss varnished everything. In this way I can use a toothpick to scratch it, without damaging the color under. It is also a great way to make save points, so you can go back if you make mistakes. If you don't have an airbrush, you can use a sponge to color with the stencils. Since the gloss varnish I used is very shiny, I like to go over it with another layer of matte varnish, to remove the wet look. And finally, the time comes to pour the liquid resin for the acid puddle. When the resin starts to harden, I like to add color to create this effect. I must say that the result is not bad. I know that the most difficult thing is going to be matching the colors between all the various styles and pieces of scenery, but it's only one of the challenges that I have to overcome if I want to finish this ambitious project. In an upcoming video I hope to show you the first wall of the Hive City, but I'm still in the prototype phase. Until the next video, thanks for watching.